for tuning in to Around the World in 80 Oysters, a live global oyster appreciation show about culture, cuisine, and great people around. So I'm Julie Chu. I'm the founder of In a Half Shell, which is an oyster blog and education center of sorts. And right now I'm calling in from Brooklyn, New York. And today we are going to virtually visit Portugal, which is an amazing seafood country, amazing country in general. I've never thought about oysters in Portugal, to be honest. So it's really exciting for me to talk with Tiago Veríssimo, who is the director of marketing and online sales for a company called Aquanostra. So I'm going to bring Tiago on. Hi.
Hi. Hi,
How are
Julie.
you?
How are you? I'm just finding you. Great to hear you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for taking the time. So tell me, where are you calling in from right now?
I'm calling from my house actually, because well, with all this COVID situation,
Yeah.
it's kind of the usual thing now.
Yep. Yep. I
I'm not
know.
in
We're
the
like a
I'm not in
week.
the production side. Yeah, phew, well, I imagine about you guys. Here in Portugal didn't hit that hard, so we are actually we keep on working, we keep on producing, we keep on selling. So, but yeah, I'm calling from home. I work remotely, and I'm calling from Estoril, which is next to Lisbon, the capital of Portugal.
Ah, got it. Well, let's just bring up this map as we speak here. Because I know you had told me where the farm is. Are you close to the farm? Or
So
are you closer to the city?
I am 60 kilometers away from the farm. So
Oh, we're
yeah,
going.
more or less that. Yeah,
This is a big
but you
ocean.
know,
Hang
with
on, let me actually zoom.
well, yeah. But
Okay,
with the highways, it's just like it's just in the glimpse of an eye. Yeah.
got it. So for people who need a geography lesson, Portugal on the west side of Spain. I've learned so much about geography
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
this.
sure, sure, yeah. I mean,
Never even thought about
yeah, it's a small country. It's 10 million people. I mean, like the population of New York itself,
it.
it's like
Yeah.
wow, it's ridiculous. Right.
Okay, so here is where you guys are, or
Uh-huh. Yeah,
you're probably somewhere closer to here.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Um, but kind of zoom. I guess before we dive into like taking a tour of your farm here, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? What you do at the company, how you even got into this job.
Of course. Well, it's actually a pretty crazy story. Let me try to not make it long, not bore anyone. So I have a degree in biology, and I took a master's degree in aquaculture and fisheries. But that doesn't really tell a lot about myself, even though I'm in the oyster business, because I was never really a really good biologist. I'm gonna be honest with you. So when I first started working in biology, I started working with oysters, and I never thought about it. I never actually. I was not a really a seafood fan actually.
Uh,
I wasn't at all. So it was actually interesting that I started working in oysters for like in Aveiro, which is it's a production site, one of the three biggest production sites in Portugal.
mhm.
I started working there. We started the production, and then I quit. But late in the end of it, I was curious about the fact that we were producing a lot of oysters in all Portugal, but still was no demand in Portugal, like ridiculous demand. Only local, not like like being in Portugal, a seafood and a fish consumer, like it's
Right.
huge per capita. Seafood oyster was not a thing.
Huh.
So yeah, so after I quit in 2014, I started a business by myself with more two friends called Osteria, which was a way of bringing the oysters to the Portuguese people, but in a way that they could add some extra value. So in with a nice cuisine, bringing in the kind of a pop up oyster allied with different restaurants. So we were really trying to make a brand out of it.
Hmm.
After 3 years, the project didn't went that well, so we decided to quit, and I got into a marketing agency because I was always really interesting about the brand and to bring the brand to the people, how to communicate, how to make a story out of it. And well, let me be honest with you, and I think it's in a general thing, but you know better than me. There are not enough really good brands for seafood around the world. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you have really good
Sure.
ones, but then it's like two guys in a truck. And
Right.
that makes the work sometimes. But when you want to go globally, you gotta
Yeah.
think bigger and with
Yeah.
big brands. So I had to learn. So I went to this agency, been there for 3 years, and then in a crazy sales call that I was doing, a guy just talk on the other side saying like, look, my boss wants to make a communication strategy. He's into something different. I mean, it's B2C, it's to the client now. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. It's about what? And he said it's about oysters. And I was like,
Wow, meant to
are
be.
you? So what? Yeah, it's about oysters. I don't know. I'm like, I maybe I should just like present myself. And I
Yeah.
told him my story. And he was like, well, this is perfect. So he presented me to the
Yeah.
guy. The guy was so interested. And at some point I was like, look, are you looking for someone to work marketing in your company? I mean, like, I know this is a big, you know, this is a big question. And he was like, well, fortunately you did that question. And that's how everything
Oh,
started.
that's amazing. That it really seemed like that was meant to be. You fell,
It is. It's
fell into that.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, it is also funny because your move from actually the oyster experiences back onto the production is actually the opposite of what I learned about Felipe, who we did in the first episode for Brazil, where he actually was working on the farm and then ended up going into opening his own oyster mobile
All
raw
right.
bar because he realized like he
Yeah,
can
it's
grow
all
the
different.
product but can
Exactly.
only take it so far. That's pretty cool. So anyway, if you haven't seen Brazil, go check it out. I also want to thank everybody who's tuning in live. Thank you so much. If you have a question for Tiago, please leave it in the comments. You can either do that in Facebook or YouTube. And at the end, if we have time, I will do my best to put them on screen and try and answer some of them for you. Or Tiago will.
Yeah,
So
I'll do my best.
that's very cool. So if now having been in this job for a bit,
Mhm.
like have you seen well, I guess have you seen any progress of people wanting to eat more oysters in Portugal, or is it still,
No,
not
so,
as
so
popular?
much, so much. I
Yeah.
mean, like back in the time, back in the time, like like 6 years ago. No, but the fact is, like 6 years ago, is I remember to do a benchmark, and I went to the restaurants and I was trying to put a price on it, price on the oyster, and I was like, oh my god, I went to some places and the oyster was so bad.
Mm,
When I say bad, I mean, don't take me wrong. I mean, like, it was not in a way I was seeing the benchmark from other countries, like from France, from Holland, from the States, from Thailand, from. I mean, like, I was looking for. I was going through Instagram and Pinterest, and I was going crazy. I was like, this is amazing world of oysters that I'm seeing here. Why here no one does the same? I mean,
right.
doesn't because we have really good restaurants, and we have really good seafood.
Right.
And then I found out that people were not that, picky about it. People would like to go to the production sites in their vacations,
Mm.
eating oyster. And worse, people love to eat oysters in Portugal in summer season, which is when the oysters are not in their best.
You're talking about local, like Portuguese wanting to do this.
Sorry?
You're talking about Portuguese
Yeah.
uh, wanting to go.
Portuguese
Okay.
people, yeah,
Yeah.
they were
Okay.
going to production sites in the summer,
Huh.
buying like dozens, 20, 30s, like
Yeah.
dozens of oysters by the price of ridiculous, like 2 euro, 3 euro, that like, ridiculous prices
Yeah.
because they were catch from, on the wild oysters.
Right.
So when on the moment I present them in 2014 with the oyster value of the price of 2 years and a half,
They were like,
they're like,
"What?
are you
Huh?"
kidding me? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Why this oyster, costs the same as I'm buying a kilo, almost like a
Yeah.
half of a kilo in the summer. I'm like, because these are really good oysters.
Yeah.
Oh, the other are better opinions. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a hard, it was a really hard work to pass this added value of the oyster to the people. But I think after 6 years later, oh, I see some really good oysters there already. Some people really doing a really good job. Not just production, because I know for sure that there were a lot of really good producers back in the
Mm.
time that are really doing a really good job. But they were just selling the oysters back to France because it's like 90% of the production goes to France and some other countries.
Mm.
They were not taking the really good value of it. So I think people now are finally, like opening their eyes and seeing like, well, I can actually provide a really good product for a really fair price.
Right.
It's all
And
about the fair price.
Well, and your company is doing also something different, right? You are selling not just to wholesale, but now direct to
Yeah,
consumers. Is
which is
that
my challenge.
yeah, tell me more about that. Like how is that
Yeah,
going?
it's hard, it's hard, it's hard. So the standard is you have a production site, you have a commercial team. No, maybe you have a marketing guy, but you normally don't have a marketing guy. You have a commercial guy. You have a guy that makes exports. You have a guy that sells to restaurants,
Yeah.
maybe but you do that. You just sell B2B. On the moment we start thinking, on the moment they hire me, they told me like, Tiago, your biggest challenge is you're gonna hit really hard on the clients because you have to sell them oysters. You really have to sell them oysters. You have to make this product worth their fair value.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I started working on the B2C channels, and then COVID happened, and I didn't even have the time to think about it because suddenly the markets were closed, restaurants were closed,
This
and
is the
all
only way.
this is actually the only way. So we were thinking about it. We were thinking how to do it, and
Yeah.
now we're okay. We're gonna
We're
do it.
doing it.
We're doing it. We're doing it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, let
So
me
we have been
also
there.
I want to before we get into more, I want to make sure people see where you guys are farming. This is so beautiful,
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
way. Wait, so tell me where we're looking right now.
So we're looking at Setúbal estuary. I don't normally say this word correctly in English. Sorry.
Estuary, estuary.
Yeah, estuary. Thank you. So this is a beautiful estuary. We have some three big, beautiful estuaries in Portugal, which is the three main sites to produce oysters.
I see.
Yeah, Aveiro,
Wait,
Setúbal.
going back to the map. Can you point them out?
Okay.
So this is one
Yeah. So
here.
yeah. So this is Setúbal. If you go up,
Okay.
if you go up,
More up.
yeah, there's a
This one.
exactly. So that's
Okay.
one. Yeah, as you can see,
Okay.
it's also really big,
Yep.
and you have a lot of production, a lot of oyster production. That was my first job. That
I see. I see.
was my first job there. And then if
Okay.
you go down to the south,
And then more to the
mhm,
south.
south,
Okay.
there on the tip, there is a tip on the right. Yeah,
Here.
yeah. Yeah, there's again, it's Formosa. It
Got
has
it.
a lot of oyster productions as well. Yeah, all
Okay.
around
Cool.
that side. Yeah.
And do all these sites produce both the Pacific and the native
So this,
oysters?
yeah, this all this so main species being produced in Portugal is Crassostrea gigas. It's the Pacific oyster, so it's the one on the top there.
Of this photo, yeah.
Yeah, and we also do have Atlantic oyster, which is the one on the bottom,
And
and
by
that's
Atlantic, you're talking about the European native.
the European. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly, the flat oyster.
Yes.
Yeah, we also have Crassostrea angulata, which is the Portuguese oyster, the Portuguese, as the French
Ah.
would call it. That until 97, until the 70s,
Okay.
that was the species that was most produced in Europe.
Wow.
But then they had the entire, like, there was this virus, the entire community collapsed in all production sites because they were all connected by some way. It was not like COVID now, but at some point they all collapsed. It
Right.
was not even 1 week, 2 weeks, but they all collapsed. So they not infiltrated. They inserted. They integrated the Crassostrea gigas production to be sure that the demand was being fulfilled.
I see. Okay. So then that at that point, the entire industry completely changed.
Completely changed because
Yeah.
then you have triploids,
Oh,
and
okay.
then you have that's the question they make. Like, why should I be trying to produce another oyster if I can go to France and order online and order millions of oyster seeds, triploids, which are fast growers. They don't ovulate, and they have a higher probability of success growth. I mean, like it's a commercial decision sometimes, you know.
Sure,
Uh,
absolutely. Would you
in
say
yeah,
is that is I don't know if everybody on watching understands the difference between a triploid and a diploid. We don't need to get into that, but
okay, sorry,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
Google it if you need to. But I'm actually curious to know if is the Portuguese oyster industry focused entirely on triploids, or is there just still a mix between triploid and diploid
No,
production?
there's a mix about it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Just to be clear, in Setúbal we don't grow gigas
Okay.
because it's a space that's only for angulata.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, we grow gigas in the south of Portugal where we can. But talking just to make that note. But about Portugal, yeah, yeah. There's like a mix. You know, you still have people that produce diploids,
Yeah.
and you have people that produce triploids. I mean, again, I think it's a commercial decision,
Mm.
but there should be, and I don't know how it is in other countries, and people could actually comment, and maybe you know how to answer me. But sometimes when you import seeds, you also import virus,
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes people are, well, now there are more analysis and control by FAT, directions, the FAT department in Portugal, but there was this sometimes this problem because if there's a virus in France killing oysters, we start taking because we know that there will be a guy that will be importing seeds that will have that virus, and because they sell and buy from other people,
Yeah.
everything gets infected. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Now, I actually had a couple other. Forgot that I had another page on this thing. Hang on. Where is it? So, you had sent me some really incredible photos. This is more of a close up of your production site.
Mhm.
Can you explain? Uh, is this very traditional for Portuguese oyster farms, or is this unique to your company?
Okay, unique, I would not say, but I don't know a lot of production sites that we use the same floatable system as we are using. So,
Okay.
yeah, most of the more older productions in Portugal normally use the French tables, right?
Okay.
Those tables with the oysters on the top, and they just
Yep.
like turn them around. This floatable system is really interesting because they keep the oyster bags on this pelagic depth that is full of really good nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the floatable system, the blue thing, they keep shaking and breaking the outer growth that they have on their
Yep.
shells.
Yep.
So providing an increasing growth, which is really interesting, and it makes half of the job.
That's what did you guys invent these
Oh
the
no, no,
equipment?
no,
Is
no.
it from
Um, don't. I'm not sure where this actually started,
Okay.
so I'm not gonna start a fight on the chat.
It's okay. I've just never seen this system quite like that shape before, but
I
yeah.
think I saw somewhere like in Asia or Australia.
Okay.
I mean, there's even a guy in Aveiro with an amazing structure, which is like it's a cylindric. How do you say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a cylinder.
Oh man, it's
Um,
crazy because it keeps shaking with the
yep.
flow, right? And
Yep.
it keeps like breaking the oysters. And I actually have a really good species there of that
Oh
oyster,
yeah.
and I could recognize that oyster any place. It's an amazing shape. It's an amazing shape. So I mean, there's a lot of really good. It's the one on the that one. That one.
Perfect.
I call it like horse. How do you say horse feet? Like
Horsefoot, yeah.
yeah, horse
There's an
feet.
actual oyster species that's called the horsefoot.
No, seriously?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. No,
Sorry.
I was trying to brand it. Ah, damn. Okay. Well, okay. I'm just gonna cross
Yeah, it's
that
like
from the
an
list.
equestry something. Someone told me about this, and because it looked like that. Anyway,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, now you were saying the oysters are becoming more popular in Portugal.
Mhm.
Do you foresee selling growing most of your product to sell to the local market, or are you guys, you know, also interested in exporting down the line?
We are going globally, talking directly to the camera. No, so no, being serious. I mean, like we in Portugal, as I told you, it's let's see it as a business. So we are 10 million people. We love seafood, but we're not that into oysters. So there comes to a point that you have to be scalable. You have to grow your business. So if you cannot grow in Portugal, you got to look into other countries. And
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that our oysters, and I have been tasting some really good oysters from really amazing places around the world. And well, you know better than me, right? Our oyster, it's really good. Like we have an amazing oyster. And
Yeah.
when you think that 90% of your oysters, my oysters, our oysters, Portuguese oysters, are going to France to being sold as French oysters,
Ooh.
there gotta
Ooh.
be something, I mean, like, look, your product is good because it's
Yeah.
being sold,
Yeah.
to the best producers that
Yeah.
they are selling your oysters to be able to fulfill the demand in all the places in the world. I mean, I know we're not gonna compete with Gilardo and stuff like that. Of course not. But if we aim to be one of the biggest producers, in the Europe, yeah. If you want
Yeah.
to have really good brands, yeah. If we want to get out from Portugal, then right, and we will be. I hope so in every part of the world. I
Well,
hope
that's
one day in New York you'll be eating an oyster from Aquanostra that we don't have to send by Korea and spend like hundreds of euros. And we'll be
wouldn't
able to
that
do
be
it.
amazing?
Yeah.
International oyster trades. So I have a couple. One interesting question from Anne on Facebook, and I think that's more specific to when you were, or maybe when you're, trying to sell the oysters into the restaurants. Because he
That's
has
that.
mentioned.
That's a really cool. That's a really cool question. So back in the time with the Australia, we were the oyster guys, the oyster girls. So I actually had a team of 10 different people that I was personally training to open oysters. There was like the biggest event I did was like in a Benfica stadium, which is like it's a football team here. It was like 900 oysters opening 900 oysters during the games, like 1 hour and a half. It, of course, it's a skill that no one has, and
Yeah.
of course, like there's places there was even restaurants that they sell oysters for like €3, and then when you see it how they shut, they destroy the oyster. So
Yeah.
it's true. There is not a culture. There is not a lot of shuckers, and that's not even a thing. So we were doing a really high supportive brand activation next to those restaurants. We were thinking about doing it now because we want to raise those people. We want to give them the tools,
Yeah.
as we want to give the tools to the consumer to eat really good oysters, to know how to open back at home. For instance, I was selling oysters now through Uber Eats and Glovo. Believe me, my pain was like, I hope they can do it. I hope they can do it.
Cross their fingers.
Yeah,
You
crossing
can do
fingers,
it.
giving the. We were delivering knives. We were giving knives. We were give illustrations on how to shake an oyster. We
Yeah.
were making videos. I mean, it's not original. A lot of people are doing it, but yeah, it's a really good point. We gotta raise awareness about this subject, not just with clients, but with the restaurant owners, so
Yeah.
they feel, like we can do a good job, so we can sell it.
Great. Another question from Mike, I think, is do you also raise Gigas oysters as well as the flats?
Yeah, Mike Stock. Yeah, we raised the Giga oysters and the flat oysters as well. Actually, really cool point about this that we control the whole system regarding the flat oyster. So we have, I don't know I don't know for sure about this quote, but I'm gonna say it. I think we have one of the rare maternities of flat oysters in the world.
Okay.
Please, someone in the audience, if they have a different opinion, please tell me. But I think they are very rare because, as I told you, it's really difficult to raise a flat oyster,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of natural
You're
natural
talking
bank.
about a hatchery. Your hatchery, or you're talking about brood stock? What do
No,
you?
we have a hatchery. It's a place where you grow the seeds.
Yes,
We
like you
produce
have the
from the seeds.
mature females and males, and
Yeah,
then you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
spawn, and
yeah,
then
yeah. We do.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So we do
Yeah.
it from the start. We have them,
Okay.
we produce them, we pass them to the growth systems, and then we have a purification system to purify the oyster,
Okay.
and then we can pack the oysters, make our own packs, and sell to the direct consumers. So from the beginning, it's 100% traceability.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's really cool.
can't really say that for a lot of seafoods that we eat, you know.
Yep, yep. I'm very picky with that.
So I think we're almost about uh, time.
Oh,
I have one last question. I know this always goes faster than
yeah,
you
sure,
think it
yeah.
does.
And I
Um,
talk about sorry.
one last question. I love asking this to everybody is if you could visit anywhere else in the world to try their local oysters, where would you like to go? One
Um,
place.
Straight out from okay. Well, so I have been to some Namibia.
Why?
Like it's in Africa. If you put on Google, you can. It's an amazing because it's like it's one forget place in the world where fabulous that there's like the huge desert, you know, there is ocean and desert.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of people there. There's no pollution. It's an amazing upwell zone, so it brings a lot of nutrients from the deep sea that comes up to the top. So there's a lot of fish, there's a lot of nutrients. So the oysters there, of course, they also get really good food, let's just say.
Yeah.
And I heard they are amazing. I heard because I never taste them. So Namibia
Oh,
desert, Namibia coast, actually, that would be the place I would eat oysters.
I got to try one in Hong Kong many, many years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you that it was very different than others. It
Okay.
was good. It was, I didn't even know what to make of it because it had certain metallic, like, flavors that I just never experienced in other oysters. So it definitely stands out.
Ah, damn. Okay. I'll do that. Yeah.
You're like, ah.
Damn. Because
Well,
I
you
mean,
can
like,
always,
it's not an easy trip, you know, like, because I
it's
like to go
not.
to the place. I like to go to the place, so it's
It's
not
not,
an
but
easy trip.
I think they're Namibia. If I'm thinking about this correctly, it's just they have their own oyster festival, or they used to.
No, seriously? Oh, no.
Unless
Yeah.
I'm thinking of South Africa, which is relatively close
Well,
to.
yeah, it's relative close. Yeah, it's relative close. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like South Africa, yeah,
yeah,
Angola, Namibia, yeah,
but
yeah,
yes.
there's Angola, yeah.
Well, anyway, that's the next trip once all this is over.
We'll be done. We'll be done
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, thank you so much for this fun talk.
No,
I
thank
learned a
you.
lot. I know that we can talk forever about
Yeah,
this, but I wish you guys the best of luck and hopefully. Oh, before I forget, make sure everybody to follow Aquanostra on Instagram so you get to see more pictures of the farm and the other cool educational things that you're putting on there.
yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for who is still listening. I have been following Jody since my benchmark in the first time in
Oh God.
2014. That yeah, it's true. So it was kind of an honor to be here, and thank you so much for this invitation. I never expected. So it has been
Oh,
great to follow you, and you're doing a great job. You
oh, thank
you
you.
you all you inspire all of us to make something better from oysters. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, have a good rest of the day.
Bye bye.
Bye. Awesome. Well, that was Tiago from Aquanostra. So cool what they're doing over there. So definitely check them out. Coming up on Thursday, we're going to go to Denmark and talk to a fellow blogger, Jonna Nielsen Bobbitt. She's living in Copenhagen right now and has been writing about Scandinavian food and has written about the amazing underappreciated oysters also in Denmark. So I'm excited for that conversation. If you like this episode, make sure to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you do on either channels, and stay tuned for more. For people who are now craving oysters and don't know about my database, I have a database compiled of now, I think it's almost 60 growers in the US who are selling their oysters direct to you guys in the US. Sorry, international people. But you can buy oysters from oyster.guru/shop. And oysters.guru/live is going to be the full schedule for the next interviews. But I'm like, now I can only schedule interviews like 1 week in advance, so it'll never be like more than a week in advance. Sorry. Okay, we'll talk to you next time.